Welcome to You Are Your Name. This is Dakin Ariel and Marlo Shearing. Today, our episode is going to talk about a more advanced topic. It's covered in detail in our cycle management training, but it's important to have at least an introduction to it if you're going to use a cycle chart. So far, we've talked about the 9 cycles in the years and that there's a broad 9-year pattern. But that same pattern exists within each cycle year in the months. So you have a 1 cycle month, a 2 cycle month, a 3 cycle month, all the way through to the 9. You set your goals and your ambitions relative to the 9-year pattern, but your actions are relative to the 9-month pattern within each cycle year. I thought we would go briefly through those key months that initiate that cycle pattern and when they end. So if you're in a 1 cycle year, and you'd know that by looking at the cycle year of your cycle chart. So really this episode is specifically for those people using the cycle chart. So if you don't have it yet, download it. But if you're in a 1 cycle year, you'll find that the key month of June is a 9-1 month, and that's a starting period of a 9-month pattern. And that doesn't really complete until March of the following year. So you'll find that whatever you start in June, July, and August, further in September, October, and November, the completion starts to show in December, which is a 6-7. And then because it jogs a little bit, January, February, and March is the completion of that 9-month pattern. And you'll find that the fruition is in February for the things that you started in June, July, and August of the year before. Did you want to do the 2 cycle year, Marlo?
Yes, thank you. I just thought we would reiterate that the cycle is relative to first the year. And so that's the seeds that you want to sow relative to that quality. So 1 year is time to start. So that 9-1 month in June is the key seeding time for that 1 year cycle. In the 2 cycle year, we're looking at the quality of the 2 year being relative to people. That key seeding time comes in April, and we have an 8-1 month. That cycle concludes at the beginning of the 3 cycle. And that 2 cycle, that 8-1 month, you want to seed a bigger understanding of people, greater ability to associate, more recognition of that quality of diplomacy, or something in your business activities relative to starting. And then it concludes in that 3 cycle period in the 6-9 month of January.
So then you have another set of 9 months that start in February of a 3 cycle year. So that's a 7-1 month. So you see that one bottom number is the action. And it concludes in October, which is a 6-9 month. So you have a full 9-month pattern within the 3 cycle year, and it should be relative to the objectives of the 3 year, which is broaden out through expression and making yourself known. If you're in business, you're going to be more outgoing, more presentations, more interaction with people. That's the strength of the year. So you're going to find that whole 9-month pattern should be focused on that particular objective. You do have another starting period in November of 7-1, and it jogs around to the 4 cycle year. So perhaps you could take that one, Marlo.
Well, the 3 cycle at the end of the year after July starts to wane. And the 1, 2, and 3, as we've stated, is relative to the seeding time of the cycle. The 4, 5, 6 is the testing and proving. So now that 7-1 month at the end of the 3 year is also relative then to the actions of that 4 cycle. And the 4 cycle is staying steady and looking at improvements in what you've started, fine-tuning, looking after details. And then in the 4 cycle year in September, we come to the 6-1 month. And in the 4 cycle, that's a really recognizable time because that 6 quality is responsibility, looking after maybe our fellow man, maybe business details again. But there's such a positive energy in that 6-1 month. And so that's the seeding time for that 4 cycle year. But again, we're not starting anything new. We're always relating that quality of intelligence of starting in the month back to the cycle year.
And that ends in June of a 5 cycle year, which is a 4-9 month. So that sort of initiated at 6-1 on minor details that are preparing you for the 5-cycle year, which is that broadening out and expanding. So you can see that really the key activity of the 5-year doesn't really start till July in the 5-1 month. All of the previous months before that are really relative to just preparing yourself, getting things ready, and sorting out problems that have arisen in the 4-year. But the 5-cycle year is a cycle of expanding, broadening out, new ideas, promotion. It's a very dynamic year. And that key month of 5-1 starts a 9-month pattern, and it continues right through to the 6th year into April of the 3-9. So that's a very dynamic 9-month pattern that should be focused on broadening out whatever you started in the 1, 2, and 3 cycle years, fixed in the 4, and now you have this opportunity to take the next step of growth.
And so that 4-cycle year was the testing, improving, and then the 5-cycle is really innovative. In that 5-1 month, there could be, as Dakin said, a change or something started that's new. The 6-year wants to prove the intelligence before the fruition. So that 6-year starts with a 9-6 month. There's responsibilities. The seeding cycle for that 6-year doesn't start until May, and it's a 4-1 month. So interesting again, the intelligence of that cycle is looking for the logic. What is the logic of what I want to create in this cycle? And then you want to seed that intelligence into the 6-year. You're trying to create that base of logic and strong understanding of your ideals in preparation for the fruition. So that 4-1 month continues along and then ends in the 7 cycle in February. So the fruition of your actions are reaped in February of the 7 cycle.
Right. And that January is such a strong month too, the 1-8. So the fruition, in a sense, starts at November, which is a 1-7, furthers in the 2-8 of December of the 6th year. But then you have January as a 1-8 and February as a 2-9. You'll see a gradual fruition through that whole period. And then in the 7 year, you have another 9-month pattern that starts in March, which is a 3-1, and that goes all the way through to November of the 2-9. So the 7-cycle year is a time when we withdraw from active efforts and we're trying to understand the broader picture of life. It's a very philosophical time. So the 9-month pattern can be used to work in depth to understand life and the principles behind life. And that will give you the greater fruition in the 8 and 9 because you have that broader perspective of your ideals and objectives. And December is a 3-1, so it starts another 9-month pattern that jogs over into the 8 year.
And the 8 year, interestingly enough, starts with a 2-1 month. And so that 8-cycle year is the year of fruition, bringing to fruition the efforts of the whole previous cycle, starting from the 1 year. And so that 2-1 month gives you that ability to look at what you would like to seed, because within that 8 cycle, as well as the complete fruition of the 1 to 8, you can do something within this year and see the fruition within this cycle. So that 2-1 month starts in January, and August then is the 9-8. So in that 8 cycle year, we know that July is the keynote month, 8-7, and that fruition of that 1 cycle is in August, which is the 9-8 month.
So there's another set of 9-month patterns that start in October of 8-cycle year. One of the points that's made is never start anything long-term in an 8 year. You want to complete it within the 8 year. So that 2-1 right through to the 1-9 gives you an opportunity to complete things. The key month, as Marlo mentioned, was August. That's the 9-8. And you'll find that September is more planning for the future. And so that planning then initiates in October of the 8 year and follows all the way through to July of the 9 year. And so that 9-cycle year is a much more inspirational time where you should be able to have the good conditions of your 8 year continue on. But really the objective of the year is to plan for the future. So again, this whole 9-month pattern can be used to look at what you've accomplished in the last 9 years and then see where you want to go. And seeing where you want to go, in a sense, initiates in August of the 9 year. It's a straight 1 month, and it goes all the way through to May of the 1 year. And that's preparatory for the 9-1 of the 1 year again. So again, you can see how each of the 9-month patterns fit into an overall pattern of the cycle years, but they are the actions that should be taken relative to that overall year. Any other final comments you'd like to make, Marlo?
Just once again, that there's a hierarchy to the numbers, and the year sets the tone for your overall objective. But as we point out in this podcast, within the year, there's a key seeding time and a fruition time, and those months relate to that yearly cycle. So it's important to understand the relationship with the numbers and always relate it back to the cycle year.
And the nice thing about the cycle chart is that the description is actually doing that relationship for you. So you don't need to know what does a 4-7 mean. You could just read the cycle chart and it'll describe the conditions of a 4-7 month. So you'll see what are the relative actions that would be best during that period. But at least you now, from this episode, see that it's part of a 9-month continuum, which are part of a 9-year continuum. If you take the cycle management training course, you'll find that we teach the actual 9-day pattern within the month. So every month has a series of 9-day patterns as well, but that's another topic. Thank you, Marlo. That will complete our episode today. If you'd like to learn more about the cyclic law, you can download our free app, which is called Cycle Chart, on either the Android or Apple Store. Set up a free account. You can create an account with your email address or your Gmail or your Apple account or even your cell phone number. All you have to do is give it your month and date of birth, and it will configure your personal cycle information for a 5-month window. The current month plus 2 months in the future and 2 months in the past. So that should give you a chance to evaluate your cycles relative to the months, days, and years. So until then, happy thoughts.